Zoom recording. We are live.
We are live. Okay, roll call.
Mayor Jacobs.
I am here.
Committeeman Hickey.
Here.
Mr. Strackhoff.
Here.
Mr. Cavallini is not here yet. Mr. Rodelius is not here yet. Mr. Leonard.
Here.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Here.
Mr. Nick.
Present.
Mr. Urbana.
Here.
Mr. Walter.
Here.
Chairwoman Gutschall.
Here.
Adequate notice of this special remote meeting of the Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk and sent to the Bernardsville News and the Courier News, and to all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 16, 2020. Formal action may be taken. Rich
Okay.
Cavallini is now joining us.
All right.
Okay, hi, Rich. I don't see you, but I hear you're
He's
here.
just, yeah.
Okay,
There
there
he is.
a little bit. Okay, let's have the flag salute. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Room for improvement.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess, Tom, you take over for now?
Thank you, Carol. This is now the reorganization meeting of the Bedminster Land Use Board. And so we'll first confirm that the board members who are newly appointed to the board this year have signed their written oaths of office and are on file with the board secretary. And the next order of business is to seek nominations for the position of chair for 2021. Are there any nominations?
Tom, I just want to go back and this is Mayor Jacobs. I just want to confirm that I have Scott Zupnick's signed oath of office, Anna Orabano, her signed oath of office, Jeff Leonard's signed oath of office, and Nick Strackhoff's signed oath of office. And I will bring these over to the board secretary.
Thank you, Mayor.
Aye.
Aye.
So we will now solicit motions for the nomination for an appointment of a board secretary. Are there any motions for nomination and appointment?
I'd like to nominate Carol Gutschall.
Second.
And are there any other nominations?
Tom, you said board secretary?
Oh, I'm sorry. Board
Chair.
board chair. Sorry,
Yeah, right.
board
Yeah,
chair.
I still second Carol, so.
So any other nominations for chair? There being none, we will treat this vote as a vote to both nominate and appoint Carol Gutschall as the chair for 2021. Please call the roll.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey.
Aye.
Mr. Strackhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Travellini.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius is still not here. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Zupnick.
Aye.
Mr. Urbana.
Aye.
Mr. Walter.
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall, do you vote for yourself?
Aye.
You better.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, and it's now in your hands, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Let's have election for vice chair. We need nominations. Do I hear any
I
nominations?
nominate Jeffrey Leonard.
I second it.
Okay.
What, they almost call that unanimous consent or something, right?
We won't let that happen here. We have to hear it all.
Okay, if there's any other nominations, then we'll close the nominations and we'll have a roll call.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey.
Aye.
Mr. Strackhoff.
Aye.
George is still not here. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Zupnick.
Aye.
Ms. Urbana.
Aye.
Mr. Mr. Walter,
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye.
You forgot me, but aye. Thanks, Rick.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everybody. And thanks to Larry too for reappointing all of us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I thank everyone who was reappointed to the board for their service and for volunteering their time. I know you're all dedicated and you all do your homework and you come prepared. It's a very good board. It's a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. So thank you. Thank you for your service. We will move on. We already did oaths of office for the new appointees. And now we have public comments. And I believe the mayor, you had something you.
Well, I was going to save this for board comments.
Oh, board comments?
So
You don't
I'll
want to
make
have
those,
public comments?
Yeah, I'll make
Okay.
those announcements at the board.
Then we'll
comments.
open it up to public comments. If anyone who has anything that they would like to talk about that's not on the agenda.
Do you just want to give the announcement of if they need to make, if they want to make a comment,
Yeah.
how to do so. Janine, you just want to cover that?
Yes, if they have a phone and they cannot do it from their screen, they can do *9 if you're using your cell phone. And that will raise a hand.
Yeah.
And if you're using Zoom, you can go to the bottom of the screen and under
And wave.
participants
Wave. Is that how you do
or
it?
chat,
Or chat.
do a wave of the hand.
Okay.
And Janine and
Do we see anybody, Janine?
No,
No?
we do not.
Okay. I would just like to say one thing, public comment, that we had several conversations about the Robertson Road and what we should do with the road to help with pedestrian walking. And it was several suggestions, but the township committee had gladly ordered two traffic, what do you call these things?
Electronic signs.
Electronic traffic signs. And they have two of them for us. And I understand that they started putting them in for us last week, or this week, I guess, was the beginning of the week. And we're very pleased, and we want to thank the Township Committee for that. I think this will be great help for Robertson Road.
And as president of Hills Village North, I second Carol's comments. I appreciate that. It'll be a great addition.
and Colin and I talked about that. We discussed both with Paul Ferraro, not as the board engineer, but as the town engineer, and with the police chief. These signs, let people know if they are traveling in excess of the posted speed limits. And it will also, both signs will also record data. So they're not going to take license plates, but they will record speed as vehicles travel through the, as they're recorded by the motion detectors of each sign. And then that data is available. Police chief and Paul can look at it and can give us an assessment back to the township as to whether that road is, if the speeds that are being recorded are out of
In excess,
character.
in excess.
Yeah, well, there will be in excess for sure.
Oh, we know
But
that.
whether there's anything about those speeds that would result in additional traffic calming, or
Okay.
it may indicate, nope, this is exactly how it's supposed to go. 90% of the traffic is within tolerances, that sort of information. So glad to see that's moving forward.
Oh, yeah, very.
Larry, quick question. Will that also pick up, because I know that this was an issue with that other one that you guys did on the west side of town. Will it pick up like, not so much pedestrians, but bicycle traffic as well?
Will.
Okay.
It will not be able, they will not be able to distinguish bicycle traffic from
From automobile. Okay.
Good. Very good.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Township Committee, for that. Appreciate that. Okay, we have minutes to approve. We have minutes from December 3rd. So we need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion is approved for the December 3rd minutes. And we also have for,
Carol, excuse me, I was not there for the December 3rd meeting, so I abstain.
thank you. And December 17th, we have minutes for that date as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, minutes are approved for the 17th. We have a letter from Attorney Lavery for the Lemington Farm Golf Club. And I believe that that's postponed now indefinitely. Is that proper? Indefinitely? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I spoke with Mr. Lavery today, and he said he sent a letter to Janine. They are going to be looking at whether to and how to change the plans, and so they need some time to do that, and they request your postponement and they extend the time frame as well. So I think it might make sense in this matter, and I recommend it to the board. We can always contact them if we would like them to withdraw it.
Okay, but for now it'll be postponed.
That's right, but we don't have to say the date certain, and they're not
Right,
they're not holding us to the time frame for action.
okay.
Is that your understanding, Janine, too, from the letter you received?
Absolutely. They still said that they needed time to prepare their resubmitting plans. So as of right now, they're just postponing.
Okay. So now we have several resolutions for the reorganization. The first one is 2021-001, and that's our professional services. We have contracts for our professionals. We need to approve that. The subcommittee for the escrow account has asked for an additional paragraph for the contract. And I know that Tom did it, and I believe Paul did.
Frank's was at it.
Frank's was at it as well now. Good. Okay, I hadn't seen it, but okay, good. And where do we stand with Chuck's contract?
That had to be, the RFP had to be opened for anyone else submitting a bid. So as long as his is the only one that comes in, he'll be reappointed at our next meeting. So
At our
he's
next
not
meeting,
Yeah,
okay.
he's not included. On our list right now is just Tom, Paul, and Frank.
Okay,
And the contracts are there for you to sign too.
okay, good. Okay, so I need a motion for the resolution,
Motion.
Second.
and we got a second?
Yeah, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is a roll call.
Yes.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Strackoff?
Aye.
Mr. Travellini?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Feeny?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Ms. Urbana?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall?
Aye. Congratulations to all the professionals, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you, Madam
reappointment.
Chairman and board members.
And we'll take care of you, Chuck, at the next meeting. I guess we had a slip up for whatever reason, and we'll make sure that happens. Okay. We have our second resolution here, 2021-002, and that's our meeting dates. I don't see that resolution. Let me see. Oh, here it is. Okay. So we have our meeting dates scheduled. It's our first and second Thursday as usual. And so we need a a motion for the approval of the dates?
So moved. George.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Janine?
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Strakoff?
Aye.
Mr. Travellini?
Aye.
Mr. Bodilius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Ms. Orabana?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall?
Aye. Okay, and then we have our next resolution, which is 2021-003, and that is to reappoint our secretary. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Jeff.
Second.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Strakoff?
Aye.
Mr. Travellini?
Aye.
Mr. Rodilius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall?
Aye. Our fourth resolution is for Bedminster Farms. It's 2021-004. That's the one we heard last. I need a motion to approve. This is for Bedminster Farms.
So moved.
Oh, we just said that they weren't ready.
No, that's Lamington
Oh,
Oh,
Farms.
that was
Lamington
Lamington. That's
We have
Get
too
your
many
strong.
farms
in this
right.
town.
Yeah, too many farms.
A little bit up the road, Jeffrey, a little bit, Rich, sorry.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion?
Second.
Who was first?
It was Scott.
Scott, yeah.
And Lewis second, okay.
Lou.
We need a roll call.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Strakoff?
Was I present for the discussion? I don't think so.
No, you weren't here for that last meeting, so I'm sorry. You weren't here for the vote. Mr. Rodilius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Ms. Orabana?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall?
Aye. Motion's approved. Okay, okay. I guess we're on to our master plan discussion. And who wants to do that? Tom?
Yeah, why don't I start, Madam Chairman? This is the continuing discussion about the master plan amendment for Pluckerman Village for the possible office research village, a mixed-use zone district at the area south of Burnt Mills Road and commonly known as the Bed One property. There's been some progress on the drafting of documents. So the key ones that we would focus on, I think tonight, are the revised draft land use ordinance, the reexamination report, which is new to you, but is a sort of an update of the 2018 reexamination report. And you previously have seen, and it hasn't changed in any significant way yet, the master plan amendment document that Frank had drafted that would precede any ordinance, go before any ordinance. But in order to know what ordinance you might recommend in that document and the reexamination report, it's good to work on the ordinance, get it in a more polished state to be what you were thinking of. And I guess we could hear from the applicant, but maybe it would be good for me to just try to quickly summarize the ordinance changes that we did make. Would that help, Madam Chairman, that we highlight some of the ordinance things?
Yes. You're talking about the ordinance, not the re-exam right now, right?
Right. Because that's the real substance is probably in this ordinance.
Yes.
And generally speaking, it's very similar in draft now to what we were talking about in December, with the nuance or specific provision that It now includes a clear statement that the maximum number of total housing units is 160. The minimum affordable rental in that shall be 15%, and the minimum number shall never be below 23 units. If you apply that, and I put it in the ordinance this way too, if the maximum number is 160, the 15% would be 24 affordables, and that would be a requirement. So 23 if it's less than 160, less than 15%, but at 160, a 15% would be 24 units. That was a subject to prior discussion, but this is more in line with what the professionals and the subcommittee are inclined to have the board include in a draft ordinance. Then some other things were updated over the months, over the weeks and month or two, so that I could highlight them. But basically, some architectural design features to not so much focus on the size of a building, but to say no building would have a facade on any one side greater than 500 feet in length, and to take out the word hardy plank because that's a sort of a name brand, and to require low maintenance synthetic clapboard as opposed to just a name brand, but they understand that you want quality exterior materials that last long. We also would be proposing to increase the impervious cover, if the board is satisfied, the impervious cover in the office research portion of the property to 60%, but that has some nuances to it. The property owner would like to address to you about the timing of their parking changes and where they would like to be able to put parking. For now, I have put in the draft some language about potentially having some new paved parking in the front yard of the office building on 202, 206, but that is a rough draft now, and there are board members who don't necessarily want to have parking there, but maybe the property owner will explain to the board why they would like to have some buffered and shielded parking, or the authority to do buffered and shielded parking in that front yard area, but behind the berms and maybe behind an enhanced landscaping improvement. So those are the key things that we're probably should talk about tonight. And then just to help you understand what a reexamination report, it's sort of a procedural document. You've done it before. You can do it anytime at any board meeting. You have to do it every 10 years. It's good to do it anytime you recommend an ordinance to the governing body. And that's why it's being updated, because now we are ready to say where would this affordable housing zone be. We weren't ready in 2018. Now, when you are ready, we may be ready to say that. And you will only be ready to say that when you do this master plan amendment. That's the third document that basically changes the master plan to say there's a new district, and it could be new future land use area that might be called an office research village mixed use district at this area. And that would make the master plan preceding appropriate and consistent with the future ordinance, which you are talking about tonight. And I know it's complicated, but basically the planning board does the master plan amendment and the recommended ordinance and the reexamination report. The governing, after the master plan is amended at a public hearing of the planning board, It's the governing body that decides whether to introduce the ordinance. If they introduce it, they're supposed to refer it over to you for what's called a consistency report. And then if you find it consistent, which you probably would if you had adopted the amendment, it goes back to the committee and they hold a public hearing, decide whether to adopt it as a law of Bedminster. So those are the three documents we're looking at tonight. And I'll defer to you, Madam Chairman, about what order, but you might want to hear from the property owner about their ideas and requests for this draft ordinance, or you might want to dialogue about it.
I just have a question. The ordinance as drafted includes a couple of exhibits. They don't necessarily seem like current exhibits. Will they be ultimately amended before we finalize this ordinance?
Yes, we want them to be amended, and we will do that. I was not ready to take the slides from the PowerPoint, or Frank helps me with those slides to put them in here. And he'll be putting some into the master plan amendment. So we'll sort of await the board's direction on what we see tonight. And I want enough specificity that it's feasible for someone looking at this to have a vision of what will likely be proposed in site plan drawings and architectural renderings. And that helps, it reduces the number of questions in a future proceeding.
It's Larry. I just have a question regarding, actually two questions. On the ring road, how is it drafted currently? I see it.
Okay. So right now, I believe that's at the end. Let me just check. Yeah, I don't see it, Larry. I'm sorry. Maybe I have somehow.
I have it on my version on page 5, 13-406C, point 6, D. And it says the applicant shall improve the ring road between Burnt Mills Road and Route 206 and provide an easement to Bedminster Township to allow public use.
Yes, that is the draft that we want, I think, and I think that is also acceptable to the property owner.
And that is a situation consistent with the Capworth Road over at Lexington Farms.
I think it's similar, and except that Copperthwaite is unique in its ability to remain a what's called a dirt road or a graded road. I think that this will be a paved road.
And my other question is, and this follows on Rich's comment about the attachments, the drawings.
Yes.
That if there is, and we're certainly not there yet, but if there was a consensus on the layout of the parking for the office component, would that also be part of that attachment?
I believe I would like that, but I'm most concerned as your attorney about the office research mixed use portion, which is sort of the mini site plan or concept plan for the space. I need the updated look on that, and also the facade of the mixed use buildings so that we can say something about the facades. But I'll defer to the board. It would be nice to have an overall concept plan for the entire site.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think it would. Any other questions from the board regarding the ordinance?
Yeah, I just have one question, Lou.
Yeah.
I just want to know if we resolve the issue and the discussions about the intersection. I remember last time Chuck was talking about the intersection and all the different variables there. is there anything else, any loose ends about that intersection that we need to make sure is in this report or in this memorandum?
Lou, not on my end. I'm happy to defer to the mayor and chairwoman, but in terms of the intersection, I feel it's been well captured.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck.
Anyone else from the board that wants to ask anything about the ordinance?
The re-examination report that we're looking at, is this the final draft or is this complete?
If we're moving over to that, I have a question on that. Frank, on page 2, the paragraph right above the statutory authorization, you have 29 affordable family units. Is that the correct?
That's a typo, Carol. It should be 28, which it says other places in the document.
Frank is always trying to slip an extra one in. South Canyon.
Thanks, Larry. Mayor.
Make a note of that. I thought that was a typo.
Let me answer the question more directly as it was posed about the condition of this. This is a first draft by me updating the 2018 report as it seemed like it should be updated. I definitely believe that it warrants the board's careful reading and a discussion about its contents, because you may well have things you think should be in here that are not, or there may be things in here that you don't think merit the discussion that's here. So this, I would not be disappointed if you ended up with this document, don't get me wrong, but I do think that it's worth it, given what a reexamination is all about, that we make it about more than just changing the zoning on this one particular site. So if you would read it all carefully, I think we want to come back to have a conversation about it after everybody's had a chance to look it over.
And you can add to or subtract from a reexamination report at any time. So it's pretty flexible about when we do it, but it'd be good to, you have to do I would recommend strongly that we do some reexamination report at the same meeting that we do the master plan amendment, and recommend in it the ordinance that you would like to recommend.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
I have a quick question about the reexamination, all this. Once all this goes through between us, the land use and the township committee, does the 10-year requirement start over again?
Yes, it does, but reexamination reports are easily updated and done at any meeting of the board with help from Frank as to what to put in it.
Okay.
So that's why you saw one from 2018.
Right.
You did it to do the affordable housing plan at that time and to implement the settlement agreement.
Thanks.
Some of the things that we're trying to accomplish in this reexamination report pertains specifically to our addressing the affordable housing needs. And to that end, we have this ordinance change that's going to permit 160 units and 23 affordables and so forth and so on. But when we started this reexamination process, one of the things that we talked about was overlays and such and the like with respect to AT&T. Do we need to be any more specific about these particular opportunity zones, to coin a phrase? Do we need to revisit those aspects of this reexamination report?
Frank, you might comment about that.
Well, I think that's where I'm really asking that everybody read it and see how much of it they think is relevant, or whether there's anything relevant that's not in it. But again, part of the reason that it is what it is right now is because the statutory framework for a reexamination reiterates questions where you look at the way things were, what changed in the meantime, what things are like now, and what recommendations you make for changes to the master plan or the ordinances. So it gets very cumbersome because you're looking back and talking about the stuff that we've looked at and talked about in the past. So as you read through it, you're going to say, well, geez, some of this stuff doesn't seem like it's real relevant right now. And that's an important comment. That's something we should think about, particularly when you get into the zone of what recommendations there are for action going forward.
Right. we don't expect you to finalize this draft tonight. This is your first even receipt of this draft, but Frank did try to adjust it to reflect some known information. So, but I don't think you don't need to address everything about what's going to come from the county funded study in this reexamination report, because that will take months over the next year. I don't know the schedule yet, but that can be.
We won't have any results in time for this report.
Right. But, and so if you want to say it's under further study or something like that, that's fine. It doesn't, but those are good questions. That's sort of what Frank needs to hear from the board as he finalizes this draft reexamination report, which you have not seen until tonight, and maybe you haven't had enough time to even digest it. So
Yeah, I'm sure they haven't. So it's unfair to ask for comment right now.
So it's Larry. Let me just, I was going to talk about this later on. The county plan that is focused on the AT&T site is proceeding, and I was on the phone with Walter Lane from the county earlier this afternoon, and the plan or the schedule, or certainly the short-term schedule, is that the county and the consultants are requesting to have a meeting with the master plan subcommittee to talk about what they've learned about the AT&T site based upon the discussions with MetLife, the discussions with the tour of the AT&T site, and also given some of their more recent demographic studies and financial impact studies that they're working on. So the short-term plan is for the master plan subcommittee to meet with the county and consultants. That hopefully can get accomplished via Zoom later this month. And then I will also say I'm also reaching out to AT&T. We did have an AT&T representative escort us on the site visit with the consulting team, but we've yet to meet with anyone or hear from any management at AT&T. So we are requesting sit down with management or something we could talk about how they view the campus. But long term, I would say we're probably looking at getting a report. Well, it won't be final, it'll be a draft report for discussion at a land use board meeting. My guess is that would be sometime in spring. And so back to Rich's comment, it may be something that we want to touch upon in this version of the re-examination report, or it may be something we want to defer until we actually see what the county study comes up with. But something to look at that section, as Rich pointed out, and get those comments back to Frank.
I don't think you can ever have too much information. Kind of curious as to what the county's going to have to say.
Well, and when I say county, the county hired a consulting team in concert with the town. So when I say the county, I really do mean the consulting team that's performing that planning study.
They'll make a presentation to us.
They'll make a presentation
when they're prepared.
Right. That would be a public session.
And that'll be, yes, public, and as the mayor said, probably in springtime, maybe March or April. Anyone else from the board regarding either one of these documents? We are planning to hopefully take a vote on this in our February meeting. We're going to look at the 17th. I believe that's the second Thursday in February.
The 11th is the second Thursday.
Oh, 11th, I'm sorry, the 11th then.
And as long as Alfieri is not scheduled for that, right now, January 14th, we have nothing since Trump
Right.
is no longer there.
Right.
February 4th, we have some discussion about stormwater management and B&D.
Okay.
And then Alfieri, Paul, that's probably up to you. Will that be reviewed and ready to take place, or will they still need more time?
I think I should have my review ready for the second meeting in February. My guess is that's a large enough application. It'll take more than one night. I don't know how much time we would have on the master plan, et cetera, that night as well. We could do that
Paul,
first and then take the rest
we
of the time on the Alfieri application.
Paul, this is Tom. I insist that we keep the 11th for just this master plan amendment hearing.
And no,
Always good to just separate site planning from master plan, and it just gives us more freedom and more flexibility, more time, more different kind of thinking at the two types of meetings. So I'm sorry to Alfieri, but it'll have to be March.
okay.
Tom, are you thinking that the board is going to be in a position to adopt the reexamination at that February meeting?
I would like that. Yes, I would like to have the master plan amendment public hearing, which should have a pretty final, almost perfectly final draft for the master plan amendment, a draft ordinance that's good or close to final, and a reexamination report that could be modified slightly at the meeting. The master plan could be modified, but we have to be verbatim about the modifications if we do it at that meeting. A re-exam report would probably have a little more flexibility about what we change in it, because it's not a notice public hearing for a master plan re-examination report, but it is for a master plan amendment.
Right.
That being said, a schedule of February 11th for the master plan amendment is probably the best schedule to be on, and is a good idea.
Okay, so, review your documents so that you're prepared for that meeting. This is important, and the changes we need to, get to Tom if there's anything further that you need to do so that we'll be able to adopt this or at least make a vote on it in February.
I definitely would like to have enough time to review the documents before those meetings.
You have a month.
Are there going to be any updates to these documents soon?
No, you have your documents right now.
I know, but we already talked about some of it was a little out of date. Was there any more coming, or this is it?
Well,
I don't have any changes until I get comments back from the board. The one typographical error that Colin initially found, and then it was pointed out by the chair earlier, is the only change that I know of to the document you have on the re-exam.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Nick, we will be adding slides from the architectural design presentation, perhaps, if the board's ready to, instead of the ones that are in the ordinance draft.
And the ordinance dated November 12th, that is the current ordinance?
I thought you got one today. Janine, did one get out today?
You had yesterday's date on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Today's,
Today.
it's dated today.
Today.
There's one dated today. It's very similar, but there have been updates pretty much as I summarized. And we'll go over that a little bit because some of the subjects.
I don't have
tonight-
it. I do not have it.
Okay.
Came earlier.
Nope.
Emailed to you today.
Yeah, it says 1/6/21. That was what Janine sent today.
Okay. But we're going to talk about that tonight too. That's why it's okay, Nick, and
Share it.
we'll be working on it with you tonight. Okay.
All right, I guess we need to open it up to the public if there's anyone there that might be raising their hand. No, seeing no one, then we'll close that to the public. You want to discuss this further, Tom? You have other?
Yeah, I think that I'd like to offer that Noah and Mark from KRE go ahead and tell us some of their ideas and any questions they had, and have a dialogue.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you,
Yep, looking forward to 2021.
for sure.
Can't get much worse. But I'm knocking on wood here. Okay. A couple things. First, just to address the documents, and I know important that the board has time enough to review them. In terms of the exhibits that'll be attached, I think we will make the commitment that we will coordinate, following this discussion, and when the board and its professionals decide upon what exhibits they would like, we'll make the commitment to get on the phone tomorrow and coordinate that and get them to you no later than the beginning of next week, so that as you're reviewing the documents, you'll also have the updated exhibits as well to go along with them. Okay. So that's first. Secondly, we thought that basically as we've worked since the last meeting, we feel like we have come a long ways in terms of how the ring road would be treated in terms of unit count and affordability. And we have also, in response to some comments I think that Rich and others were discussing at the end of last meeting, we've also, we think, made some really good progress on the parking on the office portion of this site. And so we'd like to just share that with you simply tonight. Unless there are other things that the board would like to hear about, we understood that to be sort of one of the final outstanding design comments here, as we've worked through a lot of the rest of the comments. But we are happy. We have the presentation if folks want to talk about any other components of the project, but we have prepared just a couple simple exhibits that updated the conceptual parking exhibit that we had from last time. And before we get into that, and Mark will share them, and again, it's just 3 slides. What we heard last time and what we are sensitive to.
Can I just, before you start, can the host enable screen sharing just so that when Noah's done speaking, see that screen?
Is Janine doing it?
She's going to come right back.
Oh.
Okay, great. Sorry to interrupt you,
No, no problem. What we have done, and Mark will walk through this as we're looking at the exhibits, but we've looked at the site, we looked at some surrounding sites, and in an effort to further buffer, berm, reduce the profile of the parking that would be surface parking on the office property in the front yard, we've mirrored the existing conditions. So I think what you'll see is that as you look at the site today, what is in the side yard, but arguably in the front yard, is a parking field that comes to about 100 foot from the 202. And what we showed you last time encroached well into that. So here's the exhibit from last time. And we showed you a couple conceptual parking fields. The parking field I'm talking about right now is the existing parking field to the south on this exhibit here. That line right there is actually a little bit shy of 100 feet from Burt Mills Road. It's probably about 80 feet. The island that you see, the end of the island right there, is almost exactly 100 feet. I said Burt Mills, I meant 202, I apologize. That is almost exactly 100 feet from the road. And so Mark actually worked around how could we establish a line here that would set this parking back at least 100 feet, which is in fact on this site the building setback line, and mask the parking as best as possible. Mark, before you go to that slide, I wanted to say that when we looked at this, we looked at parking that is in an existing position in the front yard to one degree or another. The Verizon building across the way has a farther setback, but certainly has parking in the front yard there. A number of other buildings in the town, I think, have front yard parking, and our effort is not to mimic those buildings, but in fact to hopefully present something better to 202. I'm thinking about the PPAC Gladstone Bank buildings across from King Center. Those are office buildings with parking in the front yard. And so we tried to make every effort here to further berm, further landscape, and to set the parking back beyond the building setback line. And I think what we were struggling with before was, because this building itself is really set nearly 200 feet back from the street, and because we have the basin in the back of the building, there's very little area for us in terms of surface parking to park. But we made an effort from what we showed you last time rethink how we might do this. And again, to set it much farther back from the road. So I'll let Mark take over from here, but wanted to sort of preface what we'll show you here with those comments. And then Mark can get into a little bit more detail about where we're thinking about enhanced landscaping, the heights of these buffers, and where the parking expansion might go. So go ahead, Mark. Thanks.
Great. So just really briefly, and just to echo Noah, Happy New Year, everyone. Great to see everybody. The previous proposal was to add a parking field here, and here. We've revised that proposal now to respect that 100-foot front yard that Noah was talking about. And here's what we're proposing now. To skinny up this proposed parking lot, align it with the current parking lot. So you're pulling into the property off of Route 202. I should say that pulling into the property right now, there's a 4-foot berm on this northern side of the property with some mature trees, very beautiful trees. And to the south, there's a 6-foot berm. So we want to take advantage of that. And we didn't want to at all encroach on it. We actually want to enhance it.
Just to return the favor and interrupt you one time.
Okay.
I want to note, we did not want to be disingenuous about the berms. Those berm heights are basically taken from the curb. But if you look at the top of that berm to the finished grade of the building, on the topographical map, the top of the northern berm is 184. The finished grade of the building is 176, 175. So there you're really looking from top of berm down to finished grade of the building at something more like 8 to 9 feet. And that grows on the southern part of the property, which is at top of berm 190/190. There's a little pinnacle at 192, but let's call it 190. Again, back down to finished grade of the building at 175, 176. You're looking there at something in excess of 10 feet. We didn't want to represent that because these are the heights of the berm from the road, but they really actually provide more coverage than what is detailed here when you look at how they buffer the finished grade, and that finished grade would be consistent with the parking that you'll see here as well.
It's a really good point, Noah. So, and what we plan to do is enhance the current berms with additional landscaping. Right now, there's very low shrubbery, so we imagine adding some some higher shrubbery and adding trees along the corners of the berms. The parking lots then will sort of hug the building and the building line here to the north. And then here we'll extend the current paths in the same sort of in the same curved way here and here. And then this was the already proposed additional parking pad. In yellow is where we're proposing a future parking structure if that need should arise. And here's just a look at it as sort of from the master plan point of view. So here you've got the enhanced landscape parking. The existing parking is shown with the parking stalls. New parking is just dotted in, and we'll be adding that as we need it. And that's it for me.
That's what we were hoping to open discussion with.
Okay. Noah?
Yes, Rich.
At 160, what is it, 163,000 square feet?
Correct.
And presently, including all those rear lots that were, blowing up for the sake of the resi development.
Correct.
You're at 620 spots?
We're at just about 4 per 1,000, Rich.
So how many parking spaces are associated with this until you get to the point of without the structure?
Right. So in order to recoup the parking that is being replaced, that is just north of 200 spaces. I believe the exact count is 206, Rich. So 206 gets you back to where we were.
All right. So how many of these additional lots do you have to do to get the 206 or 207?
Yeah, so you need on this map, Mark, if we have our cheat sheet, I believe it is at least 3 of the 4 of these parking fields, but we've really laid these out, Rich, conceptually, and haven't quite detailed exactly how the stalls are going to be laid out or how many parking spaces we'll get. But I think from the perspective, really to get to the heart of your question, I think what we would be asking is that the impervious coverage, that so long as the impervious coverage growth to 60% on this is bounded and really bracketed by 100-yard front yard, we would be asking that the board would entitle what we are showing you on the page here today, the entirety of what we're showing you on the page.
All four spaces.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, my question is, I think I'm cool with all the ones on the southern edge, the concentric curved ones. And I'm just wondering how many spots you get up to without the objectionable one to the north of the entry drive.
Okay.
So Noah, let me do a quick calculation for you.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. And Rich, while we're doing the calculation to minus out a rough, and again, that's without laying out the stalls, but to minus out a rough area and the number of spaces there. I really do think that parking, having been pushed back behind the 100-foot yard line and with the enhanced landscaping around it, is going to fade into the background. I think that the time that you will see that parking there is when you pass right by the driveway entrance and not again.
Understanding the expense associated with the structure, you know, IMO, I'd like to see you do the three southern ones first, do the northern one in kind of a sequence, do the northern one next as necessary before necessarily, having to pull the trigger on the structure. But, I think personally, I think school's going to be out on parking demand as a result of COVID. I think, the 5 or 6 per thousand that we were all talking about, a year and a half ago, may permanently go away with so many people kind of working from home, on a more permanent basis, if not, having the option to do that 2 or 3 days a week going forward. So I'd really rather see the demand for the parking, be created before we go ahead and, encroach all the way up to the 60% limitation.
We would be personally, and I have not talked with John or Murray about that, but I think that is a perfectly rational and reasonable condition to an approval of something like that, and I think we would be fine with that.
So to answer the question, the L shape on the north gives about 90 spaces. Without that, the total on site with the other 3 blue lots shown in the existing parking would be about 540 spaces.
Okay, so now we'd be below the 4. And so that parking area would be required, Rich, to get us back to the existing parking. That said, I think that still, if your thesis is correct, and it may well be, we would be amenable to doing a phased parking. And I think also that as I do want to make the point that as the planning board here, and particularly with the benefit of these conversations, will have a second bite at the apple, so to speak. And I think to the degree that through a site plan application, if in fact the master plan is amended and if in fact the zoning is enacted, we would be more than open to working with the board on how the southern parking areas could be expanded and maybe made more rational, so that in advance of any encroachment on the northern area of the property.
I think we were kicking around some questions a couple of days ago, just in some of our discussions. How, based on, just prior to COVID, March 20 or February 20, how much of those back lots were really being utilized?
Yeah, you beat me to it, Rich. I was going to ask that too.
Yeah,
it's always empty.
They were underutilized is the answer.
Yeah.
I thought that was the case. Yeah.
All right. So again, I'm trying to understand your plight, of course, but I think if from my perspective, again, if we can do it in that manner, it may never be necessary for you to even build the structure, but that front lot, as the last option before having to build the structure makes sense to me.
It makes sense to us as well, and I think it's a great approach.
I agree.
Anyone else on the board?
Well, I'm just,
Yes, Larry.
I'd like to hear from Tom how he would draft into the ordinance the proposal that Rich just laid out.
Some kind of phasing you're talking about.
Right. Right.
Order, yeah, stacking order, yeah.
Can I offer an observation before, and Tom, I'm sorry, and Larry, if you don't mind. The parking to the south of the building, would that be considered in the building's side yard at this point?
It is, except where it's in front of the first corner facing 202, 206.
Right.
So,
But Tom, I think it's front relative to the ring road, though.
okay. Yeah, that's probably true. That's
Where I was going with that, obviously, is that maybe something would be writ that any surface parking expansion would be, in the side yard prior to a surface parking expansion in the front. It's an unformed idea, but that would be maybe a potential way to discuss the phasing in an ordinance.
Are we creating it as a front yard by making the ring road public?
Well, the ordinance notes that along any street, public or private, you have a front yard.
So it's already a front yard. It's not going to become a front yard as a result.
Well, it becomes a front yard because it becomes a public right of way. Right now, it's a driveway around the property.
Okay, so then
we're going to have to, we're going to have to allow. I think Frank and I put something in, but we'll have to make sure we allow the mixed use building and the existing office building to be exempted from a front yard from this ring road.
Yeah, I think there's ways to work the words around that. I don't think it's very hard, but I understand the concept that Noah's talking about. I think we can get there.
Couldn't we do this with the drawings?
Yeah, we could use the concept drawing as one of the exhibits and then have like some sort of phase 1 parking, phase 2 parking.
Yeah, I was going to say, does the phasing actually have to be in the ordinance, or can it be part of the site plan?
Yeah, good question. It could be part of the site plan, but it would not be as enforceable if it's not in the ordinance. In other words,
I think
whatever. If Noah changed his mind or wasn't working anymore or whatever. So, or new owner wouldn't know.
Move to Wisconsin.
Whether in the ordinance or site plan or both.
You want to work on it, right?
I'm fine with that idea.
And no, it's sorry, just a quick question. So are you, and I know a lot of this is pre-COVID, and I'll ask Rich Travellini as well. From office, for you office guys, what are the tenants asking for?
So pre-COVID, they were asking for in excess of 5, which was really that was a lot of our thinking was driven by that. I would agree with Rich. I mean, right now it is very hard to put your finger on the pulse of what tenants are asking for, because we have not signed an office lease in excess of a year since COVID. Nobody is signing renewals in this COVID time period of anything more than a year or two, and most are asking for 6 months.
I feel
Figure it out. It is really the leasing and figuring out what tenants want. They're not even expressing what they want, except for short-term commitments until they figure out their world. Rich, I don't know if that's consistent with.
That's kind of my, I've got a couple of properties that, I haven't done a stitch of leasing besides a kick the can deal as you described in 10 months.
Yeah.
But, I think our observations and Rich, we did have the conversation and we were remarking to ourselves, having, maybe taken advantage of that driveway as a cut through, maybe some of us. My personal observations was that back parking area, I really never saw it full. And
Never.
Maybe on Saturday when the bicycle club shows up.
Yeah.
Well, I think that really, I think, gets then to I think it makes Rich's idea even smarter. It's sort of a demand driven and a phased approach to the expansion.
So Tom,
Yeah, we can find a way to write it.
At the ordinance and to make sure that Tom drafts it and he's got the drawings that support that phased approach, so we could all be in a position to, say yay or nay at the next, well, not our next meeting, but the
February
meeting
11th.
in February 11th.
Yeah, I think we can even write it in words because of the south of the building and north, east of the building and north of the building at the office building, but we'll be able to do something on this.
We can produce the associated graphic like tomorrow.
Right.
You can label them expansion lot A, B, C, and D being the last one.
Yep.
Perfect.
I would, it's just Larry, I like the idea of the graphic.
Yeah, I do too. And
Great.
that's what sounds great. That's what
We'll have it tomorrow.
Right, I agree. Anything more, Noah, that you want to discuss?
That's it, unless the board has questions.
That's it?
Anyone else from the board have any questions for Noah or Mark?
Is there any changes or reconsideration of the if you go with the 160 total units?
We have not massed a 160 unit building. I would imagine the mass is going to get a little stouter, and I think Larry, you picked up on something a meeting or two back that the new stormwater regulations are going to, I think, further constrain us with that building as we actually go to engineer this site. But I would not imagine that the building is going to shrink materially with that. I think that if you're talking about trends in multifamily as well, I think that we're likely to see somewhat larger units than we were planning a year or two ago because folks are working from home and stuff like that and need a little bit of space. But I would imagine the building will shrink. Again, we have not massed a 160 unit building.
But that will be clear for the ordinance in the drawings.
Certainly, and I think that in the ordinance with respect to unit count, like that's just set as far as I've seen. I mean, I saw the master plan reexamination in the ordinance as well. I think that's just the unit count is set as an explicit number.
Yeah,
But we would then want to see at least, I think the language that Tom uses for attachment A, the proposed development shall be substantially consistent with the conceptual ground floor plan attached as attachment A.
yeah, that's what I was
Right,
talking
so,
about.
yeah. So I think we would want to see certainly the latest version.
Okay. Yeah, I would not anticipate it changing materially from what the board has in front of it today, in terms of the building footprint.
Okay.
And will that
I
drawing also
understand.
reflect some of the comments I think that you revised around Committeeman Hickey's? That would be the connectivity to the park to the west?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that could be something graphically represented as well, because I think in response to Committeeman Hickey's note on that and his thoughts on that, I think that has become an even more important part of our thinking. So we're happy to graphically represent that as well.
Thank you.
Good. All right.
Carol, yeah, could I say something?
Absolutely.
I think this whole plan is great from what I've seen, but I just want to take a moment to think about something going wrong. And for some reason, the project is no longer attractive. It's KRM, I think, is the company. Decides not to build any of this. What would this ordinance do if we had written it as if all this was going to take place, and then suddenly for various financial reasons or who knows, the actual construction never begins?
Yeah, that's for me, Nick. And the answer to that question is that's no problem for the board or the township. That would be Noah's problem. I hate to say it, but that's what the reality is.
Well,
It's the truth.
we hope it doesn't happen.
And I'll just,
But what would be left with a zoning, I don't know, would the,
Yeah, generally speaking, the zoning remains in effect. It doesn't, the Mount Laurel Doctrine is not an obligation of, generally speaking, the municipality to build the housing units or the project, except when the township or a township takes on that expressed obligation to build its own public project. And we're not doing that. And generally speaking, that is full compliance with the doctrine and the obligation of the municipality. Now, if decades took place or years started to take place, then there's a chance that we won't go into that too much. It's very unlikely to be opened up by anyone.
okay, so we're not stuck in some way with the property that no one else wants to buy because it's part of the zone.
No, it's not a problem for us. It's a problem for the property owner. And, you know, theoretically, they could come back to you and ask for something, but that would be the township's decision.
And by the way, we would have still satisfied our affordable housing requirements, correct?
That's correct. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that our obligation is to provide the opportunity for the private sector to construct it in accordance with our land use ordinances. It is not our obligation to build it.
correct. The specific, I don't actually have the settlement in front of me, but I do recall the obligation is for Bedminster Township to have built or have zoned for those affordable family rental units. So the adoption of the ordinance by itself will have satisfied the obligation under the settlement with Fair Share Housing.
Okay, anyone else from the board, if they? Okay, you've got your homework to do, so be prepared.
So just on timing, certain drawings to come from Carrie to Tom?
Tom, Frank, and Paul. And that, you know, we'll then, we perhaps will distribute those to the subcommittee or maybe the whole board, and just, you know, we can dialogue a little bit by phone, but not as a majority of the board.
And February 11th would be set up as a public hearing for a master plan amendment.
That's right, a public hearing for a master plan amendment, and at least 13 days before that, we need the actual master plan amendment, at least, to be available at Janine's office and the clerk's office in the form that is ready to be available for that hearing. If the board changes that, it either does it in exact words at that hearing or at a post-continued hearing. The draft ordinance will be also attached to the master plan amendment and the reexamination report, but the words of the reexamination report could still be worked on even coming up to that meeting, because that is not part of the master plan amendment. That is, strangely enough, a different type of document that is not a public hearing required document. But we will endeavor, we would like to know from the board, this is me and Frank and Carol and the subcommittee, you know, if board members have some strong preferences about the reexamination report, Frank can just make those adjustments. And then at that meeting, you can also say, okay, let's change that paragraph or delete that paragraph or change it to be, we'll look at this in the future. If you remember, that's sort of what you did in the last reexamination report, where you said, and we might discuss this at the July meeting of 2018. And you put that in the report rather than put in the detail in the written reexamination report. But a master plan amendment, I'd like it to be well known at the 13 days before what we're going to be putting on the public notice to the county planning board and to the in notice, and it'd be available at Janine's office.
Okay, I think our discussion is finished with this then. If there's anything else?
Madam Chairman, just to be safe, we should open to the public. I don't know if anybody's even there, but
I don't know either, but we will open it up. Just stay
So I have one last question.
Yeah, Rick.
So for the first time, we were hearing this 160 and 23 numbers. And if I remember correctly, the project includes 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. Do we have a breakdown of the 160, and would the 23 parallel that in proportion, or does the 23 have to be of a particular size and configuration?
I'll help that on what I know about the project, but then if Noah has any nuances about the market, that might be something he's being asked. On the low and moderate, it minimum will be 23. If they go to 160, that's 15% of that is 24. So that's 24 affordables. That, whatever number that is, must follow the COA rules and the township ordinances on the affordable housing bedroom mix requirement. And this, Frank knows it off the top of his head, but it's basically a certain percentage, no more than a certain percentage of 1 bedroom, and at least a
Right,
certain
no more than 20% 1, no less than 20% 3s, and the balance 2s.
That's what we would follow. That's what we have done on all these projects.
And that's for the affordable. Then
Correct.
Rich is perhaps asking you, I don't know if you are Rich, but if you're asking them what their expected bedroom mix for the market is, that's not, we don't have an ordinance requirement, but Noah might have some market information of what he's thinking of.
We've not said it yet. In fact, we'll be commissioning a couple market studies on the unit mix for the residential building.
So it'd be at least 5 and 1s, and then the number of 2s and 3s, you might be a little bit more 3s than necessary, but that's the only variable.
Yeah, I think that the at least one is actually the 3s. So if you do 24 times 0.2, it'd be 5 3 bedrooms and probably 4 1 beds and the remainder 2 beds.
Okay. All right. That's all there is. There isn't any more.
Okay. All right, we'll open it up. Jeannie, did you see anybody?
No, I think everyone that's on is either one of the professionals or one of us.
Okay. All right. So we don't see anyone, so we will close it to the public. Okay, we want to talk about the schedule for the escrow fees. Noah, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say goodbye and good night and thank you. And we will get you the exhibits, like we said, no later than the beginning part of next week. And I think that we will start to send the exhibits for Tom and Paul and Frank's review tomorrow, so that if they have some changes that make it more clear, we'll be able to get revised exhibits back to be distributed to the board at the beginning of next week.
Okay, good. Thank you, Noah. Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Because of the holidays, basically, Paul, Janine, and I have not got a new schedule for escrow fees, but we'll be working on it shortly. It will have to go to the Township Committee for approval, but we will work on that soon based on the subcommittee's recommendations. We had included the paragraphs in the contracts, as you know, and we also had a disclaimer that we would like to have done, but that needs to come after we do the escrows. So we will do that as soon as possible. Paul, you have any other thing you want to say about that?
No, I don't, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Okay. So now I think we have to go to our public comments, and I think the mayor had something he wanted to talk about.
Right, so on to board comments. So I mentioned AT&T. So the last version of the master plan subcommittee was Chair Gutschall and me and Rich and George. I'm assuming that's still the subcommittee.
That was the subcommittee, yes.
That's the subcommittee. So Rich, George, Carol, if you guys could just get back to me with some dates. This would probably be a Zoom.
This is for AT&T?
This is for AT&T.
Okay.
To have a Zoom meeting with a couple reps from the county planning office and then from the consultants who are working on the planning study. And I would also suggest that our professionals, Paul, Chuck, Frank, and Tom also participate.
Okay, so we'll give you some dates.
So we'll,
When are you talking, the third or fourth week of the month or what?
I think if we could get that done, certainly not this week, but next week or the following week.
Third or fourth week of January?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll get you some dates.
And then the other thing I was going to mention is that I'd reached out to Elite on the pending big dig. On the big dig off of 206 and Lamington Road. And Tom Powers from Elite was gracious enough to extend an offer to Colin and I to meet at the site. And I said I would reach out to some members of the land use board. And right now, all it is really just a hole in the ground. But he did say that they anticipated and they were hopeful that they would be in position to start leasing in October. And, this may be more township committee than planning board, but I certainly wanted to extend the offer to the board to have that site visit with Tom Powers from Elite. I know. Certainly going to tell us we can't have more than 4.
Right.
And I would probably suggest doing this on a Thursday morning so that Paul would be available as well.
So I'd like to jump in there and volunteer, and because I'm right across the street, I've been watching them every single day. So if no one else mind, I'd like to be in that meeting.
Okay. That's Lou.
Lou.
That's Lou and Colin and I think we, without offending Tom, could we take one more? Or since it's not even an application?
No, just no more than, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, but you're not it's not an application, but the board quorum is 5 of 9, even though it was a use variance, because this is not specifically related to the use variance. So no more than, I'm willing to go no more than 5.
Okay, so that's
not considered.
No more than 4. Sorry, no more than 4. Not more. It doesn't have to be limited to no more than 3, but don't talk about the use variance. Just be looking at what's happening and that kind of thing.
Paul's not considered part of that, right?
Paul is not part of that, right?
So Paul, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine. Let's set a time and we can meet out there. That's not a problem.
And Paul, on Thursday mornings, could you do it before 10 or is 10 your Bedminster slot?
I can do it before then. That's not a problem on Thursday.
So anyone else?
I'd come. If there's a slot open, I'll go, but I don't have to.
Well, we'll make another time.
Yeah, you could do a separate, another minor subcommittee of 3 or less. Yeah.
I'll head up in
4 or less.
time.
I would go.
Okay.
Yeah, I could do it too.
I'd like to wait until the foundation is poured.
Yeah, right.
Come on, you got a pair of mud boots. I know you do.
He must be an architect.
Yeah, Carol, I would sign up also, but
Big pile of mud right now.
Yeah.
no, I don't care which, the first batch or the second batch,
Right.
wherever I fit in.
The mud tour will be Lou, Colin, Paul, and Scott, and me. And then when it's all, nice and concrete, it'll be the Rich and Carol team.
That's
with
cool.
Yeah,
There you go.
they can wear their high heels there.
Yeah, I can do it too. So.
Got a nice pair, Lou.
You want to bring some cows or over there.
Yeah, we'll set up a second date for a second,
Okay.
a second tour.
All right, so I'll set that up. I'll try that for Thursday morning within the next 2 weeks or so. Is that all right?
Perfect.
That's what I got.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, Paul, I think we need to go over some schedules here. We got Lamington Crossing, which I guess we've postponed.
Right. I don't think we have much more than that. I think, as Janine said at the beginning, we've got B&D first week in February, and then we've got the master plan the second week in February, and looks like we'll be doing Alfieri in March.
Okay,
So B&D is BOA.
Yes.
that's Board of Adjustment, correct?
So it's just Colin and I, we're excused from that first February meeting, and we're still canceling.
And next week we're canceling
canceling.
because we have nothing for next week's
Okay.
meeting. So we have a vacation for the second week in January.
Any, Larry, any word from our, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker on Main Street and Lamington Road?
Paul and Janine might know better than us. So on the bakery application,
I have heard nothing.
And the Desiderio or Country Picnic site?
Silence as well. They have not, neither of them have submitted for resolution compliance at this point.
How about that school over on Burnt Mills Road?
Right.
That resolution compliance package is on my desk. They've pretty much got everything worked out with the county, and that should be wrapped up pretty quickly here and get ready to go.
Was that Primrose?
Paul, what if Burger King? Paul, the Burger King site,
I haven't heard any new rumblings about that.
and supposedly it's under contract.
Yeah, it's under.
Yeah. Somebody said there's work going on there already.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
They're pulling stuff out.
Yeah. And then and Kiku reopened. I saw somebody posted that online today.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So Paul, that would be odd that someone would actually go to contract on the Burger King without talking to your office.
It would not be the first time. We've had a couple of those with bad outcomes, but it wouldn't be the first time.
And the only thing I do know on the bakery is that when we had spoken to that owner through construction, basically, I think cost of work and everything else, she's completely backed off on it.
But was that construction, was the expense of construction associated with expanding where the portico is?
I think that one of the issues associated with the construction there was that expanding it required moving a major storm drain, and that was turning into a fairly expensive process.
So, but if they did into the expansion and they kept that, and the expansion was only giving them 100 square feet, maybe 200 square feet?
I don't recall, but it was a relatively minor expansion, yes.
And then the only other thing I'd heard is that they then lost the user, the baker that was supposed to come in there, then went somewhere else, and there was no user, and they're just stuck with approval. They can't afford to build without a user backup. So Rick, that's our neighborhood bakery situation. Unless something changes with, when Elite starts moving forward. And anything next to the Elite project? There was discussion about a doctor or someone else picking up that space?
I haven't seen anything on that either.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. That's a residential property.
Yes. Yeah,
Haven't seen any signs. I'm right across the street. Haven't seen any activity there.
I think you ought to snap up that property while you can, Lou.
All right, I guess that's all we've got for tonight. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Seconded.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.